Level 1. The Proby. The bay smells like diesel and old smoke, and something else you can't name yet. You'll learn later it's the smell of gear that's been inside a burning building. Right now you're standing at attention next to your locker, and Captain Reyes hasn't looked at you once in 40 minutes. That's the first test. Attention without acknowledgement. You pass the physical, scored in the 94th percentile on the written, finished the academy 3rd in your class. None of that matters here. Here, you are 0. You are the person who hasn't proven anything yet, and in a firehouse, proof is everything. Your gear hangs on the hook to your left. Turnout coat, pants, boots, helmet. 45 pounds of it. You're expected to be in it and moving within 60 seconds of the tone dropping. Right now your best is 72. You practice at night when the others are watching television. There are 11 people in this station. You are the only woman. Nobody is overtly hostile. That's the thing they don't prepare you for. It's not hostility. It's something quieter. It's the conversation that stops half a second after you walk into the kitchen. It's the way assignments get handed out, and yours is always the one closest to the truck, farthest from the decision-making. It's the 1,000 small calibrations of a space that wasn't built for you, being asked to fit itself around you, and resisting. You do not complain. You learn. You learn how the hose loads. You learn where every tool on the rig lives, not just your assignment but every tool, so that when someone shouts for the Halligan in 0 visibility, you are already moving. You learn the rhythms of the house, who cooks Thursday, who takes the watch at 0200, who needs 2 coffees before they're actually present. You learn that respect here isn't given at the door. It's paid for in repetition, in showing up, in not flinching. Your first real fire is a kitchen blaze on Meridian Street. Small, contained. You pull the line and you go in, and the heat is not like any heat you have ever felt. It presses against you from every direction, a living weight. And you do exactly what you trained to do, and nothing goes wrong. Afterward, no one says anything special. That means you did it right. You go home and sit in your car in your driveway for 11 minutes. Not because you're scared, because something in you has shifted and you need a moment before you go inside and be a normal person again. You already know you can't fully explain it to anyone who wasn't there. That's the first thing the job takes. The ability to translate. Level 2, Firefighter 1. You've been here 14 months. You don't count the days anymore, which means you've stopped being new. Your turnout time is 53 seconds now. You stopped practicing at night because you don't need to. The work has a different texture. You're not just executing tasks, you're reading scenes. You walk into a structure and you're already triangulating. Load-bearing walls, smoke color, the way the heat pools, where the fire wants to go next. Your brain has started running calculations it didn't know how to run 14 months ago. Lieutenant Okafor starts putting you on the nozzle more. That's not nothing. The nozzle is the front of the work. She doesn't say why. She doesn't have to. You've made 2 friends in the house. Real ones. The kind where the silence is comfortable. Martinez, who has been here 6 years and teaches you things without making it feel like teaching. And Chen, who is the funniest person you've ever met and somehow also the most technically precise firefighter in the company. You've also learned who the friction is coming from. It's one person, senior guy, 8 years on the job, never made lieutenant and stopped trying. His resistance to you isn't violent. It's bureaucratic. Tools that get moved. Credit that gets absorbed. The version of events told in the kitchen that puts him at the center and you adjacent. You say nothing because you know the house is watching how you handle it. You handle it by being undeniable. Your second year, you go into a residential collapse. Partial second-floor failure. And there's a civilian trapped in the hallway and the primary team can't reach them. And you read the void space correctly before anyone calls it and you're already moving. You extract them. 47 seconds from identification to clear. The after-action report has your name in it. The friction guy stops moving your tools, not because he respects you, because the math changed, because the house saw something. In a firehouse, the story of who you are gets told by what happens when it matters, and now your story has a chapter that can't be rewritten. You still go home and sit in the driveway sometimes. less often. The shift is shorter now, but you notice you've started leaving certain things at the station, small pieces of who you were before, the version that needed everyone to be okay with her. She didn't belong here anyway. Level 3, Firefighter 2/apparatus operator. You're driving the rig now. That's not a small thing. The apparatus operator carries the house. You get the crew there, you position the engine, you manage the water supply, you maintain the pump pressure while your team is inside. If you miscalculate the supply line, someone runs dry in a structure. That consequence has a face. You've been driving 2 years. You've never miscalculated. You've also started noticing the department differently, the shape of it, who gets assigned where, which stations have what resources, which captains advocate for their crews, and which ones manage upward. You've started attending union meetings, not because you were told to, but because you understand that the fire itself is only half the job. The other half is everything that determines who fights it and how. There was an incident on Callaway last spring. A house fire, working structure, crew of 4. You were the operator. The crew went in and the floor compromised faster than the thermal read suggested, and your captain called the withdrawal and everyone got out. Afterward, the captain told the battalion chief it was a read from inside the structure. It was your call. You saw it on the monitor. You said it on the radio first. You never corrected the record publicly, but you filed the report accurately. That distinction between correcting someone and documenting the truth becomes one of the first moral geometries of this job. You're learning to operate inside systems that were built without you in mind and to leave evidence anyway. You have a reputation now. Newer probies watch how you move. You remember being them. You don't romanticize it. You remember what it actually felt like, the specific anxiety of not yet knowing whether you would be enough. You never tell them it gets easier. That would be imprecise. You tell them you get better. Level 4, Engineer/Company Officer Candidate. You're studying for the lieutenant's exam. You've been studying for 18 months. Not because the material is difficult, because passing it isn't enough. You know the pass rate. You know the demographics of who gets promoted and when. You know that a woman with your time on the job needs not just a passing score, but a score that makes the decision uncomfortable to deny. You score in the top 4%. The promotion comes through on a Tuesday. Captain Reyes, who has never been effusive about anything, shakes your hand and holds it a half-second longer than usual. That's his version of a speech. You are now responsible for 4 people when the tone drops. The weight of that is specific. It's not abstract leadership. It's, if you make the wrong call, someone's family gets a visit. You carry that arithmetic into every structure. It doesn't paralyze you. It sharpens you, but it doesn't leave. The dynamic inside the house has changed. There are people who worked alongside you yesterday who now answer to you. You handle that carefully. You don't soften the command structure. You've seen what happens when officer authority is ambiguous, and it costs time, and time costs lives. But you know the difference between authority and performance of authority, and you never perform. First fire under your command, abandoned warehouse, accelerant fed, 200 degrees at the door when you arrive. You read it. You call a defensive posture over the objections of your most experienced crew member who wants to go inside. The floor collapses 4 minutes after your call. Nobody says you were right. That's not how this works. You write the after action yourself that night. You write it precisely. Level 5, Lieutenant. There's a particular kind of tired that belongs to this rank. It's not physical. You've been physically tired since Level 1. This is operational tired, the weight of being the connective tissue between the crew and the department, between what the department wants and what your people need, between protocol and the judgment calls protocol can't contain. You have 12 people now across 2 shifts. You know all of them, their strengths, their load-bearing points, their personal situations. Morales is going through a custody case, and you've adjusted his schedule twice this quarter without making it a conversation. Nguyen is ready for the apparatus operator exam, and you've been running her through scenarios. 3 of your crew are newer than 5 years. 1 of them reminds you of yourself at Level 1. You don't tell him that. You just assign him the work that will build what he needs. The department is asking you to sit on a recruitment committee. You know why they're asking you specifically. You know exactly what your presence is supposed to signal. You say yes, not because of what it signals, because you intend to change actual hiring criteria, and you can only do that from inside the room. There was a conversation with Battalion Chief Hammond last fall. Resource allocation meeting. You made a case for upgraded thermal equipment for your station. The current units were 4 years past recommended replacement. Hammond said the budget cycle didn't support it. You documented the request in writing and sent it to the union rep. 3 months later, 2 stations got upgraded equipment in the budget revision. Not yours, you filed again. You did not raise your voice. You did not make it personal. You made it a record. You've learned that the system responds to documentation the way it doesn't respond to emotion. You don't like that, but you work with what's true. At night, on the long watches when the house is quiet, you sometimes think about the kitchen fire on Meridian Street, your first real fire, how the heat felt like it was alive, how you did the right thing and nobody said anything. You were so hungry for acknowledgement then. You're not sure when that went away. You're not sure if its absence is peace or just erosion. Level 6, Captain. Your name is on the station. Not literally, but when anyone in the battalion talks about Station 14, they're talking about you. The response times, the training scores, the culture, the drama, it all references you. You built it, you keep building it. You have 41 people under your command across 4 shifts. You know 41 names and 41 families and 41 different versions of the same fundamental thing. People who ran toward fire because something in them needed to. The department is different at this altitude, more political. The fires are the same. Physics doesn't care about rank, but the conversations surrounding the fires have more moving parts. Liability, press, city council, the union, the chief's office. You are now fluent in all of it, not because you wanted to be. Because incompetence in any of those languages costs your people something. You were passed over for a battalion chief opening 18 months ago. Less time on the job than you, record less distinguished. You were told it was about operational alignment. You nodded. You wrote nothing down because sometimes the record you keep is the one inside your own head. You are not bitter. Bitterness is expensive and you have too much to manage. But you stopped asking what you needed to do differently. You know what's different. It has nothing to do with your record. What you've gained at this level is a longer view. You see the whole shape of a career now, yours and the ones around you. You've started writing mentorship guides that get used in the academy. Your name is on them. That matters to you, not for vanity. Because you know that the women who come in at level 1 will have an easier time if the system has been adjusted even slightly, and documents outlast individuals. The loneliness at this level is different. You've mostly made peace with it. Mostly. Level 7, Battalion Chief. The call comes at 0340, and you're already awake. You're usually already awake. You command 6 stations, 412 personnel, and a budget that gets renegotiated every fiscal year. You have 12 direct reports. You have a seat at the table where department policy gets made, which means you have the ability to change things you've been watching break for 15 years. You change some of them. The recruitment criteria are different now. The training standards are updated. There are 3 women at level 1 right now who will have slightly better information than you did. You don't think about this sentimentally. You think about it operationally. The department is more capable with them in it. That's the argument that works. You've learned to speak in the language of outcomes. The fires are almost abstractions at this level. You're never on the nozzle. You're at the command post, reading the whole scene, making resource decisions, talking to incident commanders, talking to the mayor's office if it's a high-visibility event. You are 3 removes from the heat. You miss the heat, not the danger. The clarity, the way a working fire compresses everything down to what's true. At this level, almost nothing is clear. Almost everything is compromise. You have made compromises you would not have accepted at level 3. You tell yourself the math is right, that the larger good is larger, and most of the time the math does check out. But you know where the compromises live. You know their addresses. The younger women in the department watch you. You know this. You try to be honest about the cost, not to discourage. Because false maps are worse than no maps. At a retirement ceremony last spring, a 30-year veteran told you you'd changed the department. You thanked him. You drove home. You sat in your car for a long time. Not the way you used to. Not processing something new. Processing something finished. Level 8. Fire Chief. The office is quiet. Not the firehouse quiet you learned in year 1, that coiled, waiting quiet where the tone could drop any second. This is administrative quiet. Carpeted, fluorescent, the kind of quiet where the only emergency is a budget hearing or a press conference or a 3-department coordination failure that you'll spend 6 weeks untangling. You are the first woman to hold this title in the history of this department. People say that like it should feel like a victory. It feels like information. The department is better than it was. You can measure it. Response times, diversity of personnel, training outcomes, retention rates, use of force incidents, interdepartmental trust scores. The numbers are better. You built infrastructure that will outlast you. And that's what this level is actually for, building what continues. You don't fight fires anymore. You fight the systems that determine who fights fires, how well they're equipped, what they're paid, whether they come home. The stakes are the same. The work is unrecognizable. There are 41 women in this department now, spread across every rank. Some of them know your name the way you knew certain names coming up, as a direction to orient toward. Most of them are just doing the work. That's the right way. That's the whole point. You think about the kitchen fire on Meridian Street sometimes. Not often. When you do, it's with a distance that surprises you. Like remembering something that happened to a person who used to live in your body. She did everything right. She stood next to her locker and waited for a captain to look at her, and he didn't, and she stayed anyway. You're glad she stayed. The weight at this level isn't fear. You stopped carrying fear somewhere around level 5. The weight now is consequence, the aggregate consequence of 40 years of decisions made inside a system that had to be changed from the inside because there was no outside to work from. You'd do it again. That's not a sentiment, that's a calculation. The quiet in this office is yours. You've earned it. You don't entirely trust it. Somewhere, a woman in her first week at Station 9 is standing next to her locker. The bay smells like diesel and old smoke. Captain hasn't looked at her once in 40 minutes. She doesn't know what that test is yet. She's about to find out, and she will stay. She doesn't know that either. But she will.